Welcome to the first episode of The People Today, where we bring you the news about events happening around you. From politics to everyday life, we've got it all. Today, we will cover the ups and downs following World War I in the period known as the Roaring Twenties. The 1920s are characterized by the changes in society and everyday life, from technological advancements, such as the invention of the car, all the way to the revival of the dreaded Ku Klux Klan, or the KKK. All in all, with the changes in society, America has been divided into three main parts: work, family, and leisure. Also, we bring to you the importance of health and family, and the newly acquired free time that we all seem to be having. We will discuss the three presidents we've had in the last few years and the impact that one man with courage can have on the nation. So sit back and enjoy the pilot of The People Today. First, we will take a look at families and their living quarters and how technology is changing their everyday lives.
The common household is greatly impacted by the technological advances of the time. The common households are still run by housewives as they were when the country first developed. Machines like washing machines and oil-powered central heating has made life easier for everyone, especially the middle and working classes. The rapidly improving technology has made the housewives managers of the family money-making sure the money was spent wisely. With less need for household management, daughters could go to school and get an education. The invention of the automobiles made wives a driver as well, driving around the family to where they needed to be.
The fast developing technology is not playing a role only in household life. Instead, other aspects such as the workplace and public streets have been affected as well.
Technological advancements are being made heavily after World War I due to extensive research and development which occurred during the war. Technology, transportation, and manufacturing advancements have made it possible for middle-class families to buy leisure items such as the radio and car. The first cars were made for the upper class, people who could afford such a luxury. But that was soon changed by Henry Ford. Henry Ford's Model T was originally created in 1896 but has become widely used in the 1920s. Its affordable price and mass production make sure that most families have at least one car at their disposal. With cars, families can travel and make transportation easier and faster. However, the need for transportation also comes with the need for roads and highways. This is why in 1924 the Federal Road Act offered money for highway construction. In addition, with the faster transportation, people have more free time. They use this free time in order to listen to the radio. With the radio, people are able to keep up with the news, and such an invention affects people's thoughts based on what they are hearing. Other inventions such as telephones and frozen foods are also impacting the market. Not just household and family life, but personal care and hygiene have also become an issue and topic of improvements. With more free time, nutrition has been advancing. With the selecting of what foods to eat to avoid illness and gain good health, hygiene such as using mouthwash are being advocated. With health improvement, life expectancy is also rising, where infant mortality has decreased by 2/3. Still, race and class are playing a role in these statistics we just mentioned. Infant mortality rates for non-whites is currently 50 to 100% higher as Saturdays.
With the state of nutrition and hygiene improving, there are more elderly living with financial issues. The elderly are forced into retirement by having their wages cut. Movements for pensions for the retired older Americans are becoming stronger as time is passing, but many people believe that they should save for retirement from a young age. From 1880s to now, the percentage of retired elderly is rising significantly. According to recent data, in 1880, 23% of people over 65 were retired. In 1910, it was 42%, and now still rising. In 1923, a while ago, the Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce labeled old age assistance un-American and socialistic, an entering wedge of communist propaganda. An interesting fact is that old retired horses are actually fed, but not old people. A postal worker once said, "For the purpose of drawing pension, it would have been better if I had been a horse instead of a human being." People like physician Isaac Max Rivenow and Abraham Epstein are persuading labor unions and voluntary associations, along with legislators, to endorse old age assistance.
Another integral part of our decade is society, including labor and cultures. With more time on their hand, Americans are finding new ways to use their free time. With such time, society's rules have changed and the lines between rights and wrongs are fading. Women's clothes have become a symbol of self-expression due to the use of colors, while men are wearing more grayly colored clothes. Smoking, drinking, and frankness about sex have become a part of society, especially due to the support for birth control. Before child labor laws were placed and attendance rules for schools for children, parents influenced their children in the field or in the factories. Before, the men formally called on women, and their social engagements were supervised. But now, social interactions called dating can take place without supervision. Adults are going to the movies and nightclubs, and they both, men and women, can afford this on their pay. In such change, women can choose which men called on her so she wouldn't be forced.
After World War I, labor has and is changing, not so much for men though, but women the most. Post-World War I, men's jobs do not suffer a huge change. Many jobs that men have right now are considered blue-collar jobs. Blue-collar jobs involve working in factories, farmers, and overall manual labor. Some men do work white-collar jobs such as law enforcement, public service, and business. In such a time, men can work in almost any kind of job that they want to do so. The major changes in labor involved women. Due to the effects of World War I, women proved their capability to work effectively. Women continued to join the labor force as years passed. The number of women working in agriculture decreased in comparison to other jobs. Women took up jobs as teachers, nurses, typists, bookkeepers, and clerks. Domestic jobs still dominate, but slowly, domestic jobs and personal services are declining. Still facing discrimination, women's pays do not meet a man's pay halfway. Women in workforces work for the household that want to live beyond their needs in the consumer society. Along with white women, minority women of other races are also employed in part of paid labor. Even though they have jobs, their pay does not meet those of white women. Minority women hold more domestic jobs such as cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Furthermore, black women had also helped take care of children for white women.
Women's changes don't end in labor, but go beyond to a new definition of feminism. Before, the image of the woman included heavy floor-length dresses and long hair, but now in the 1920s, short skirts and bobbed hair demonstrate freedom. In fact, this has just recently been called the flapper lifestyle. Women are attempting to assert social equality with men, and the new woman is simply demonstrating independence. In related news, a new culture is gathering more and more attention by each day. Homosexuality has been kept a secret and hidden from the public way before the 1920s. But as the topic of sexuality became more open, homosexuality surfaced. Places such as Greenwich Village in New York and places with cheap renting and tolerance for alternative lifestyles attract homosexuality. Even still, society does not accept gays and lesbians, as seen by the numerous raids in such places where homosexuality was prevalent.
While alternative lifestyles were gaining attention, a secret organization called the KKK was being revived in almost all parts of the country. The KKK is an order of white supremacist males that terrorized the southern communities and that started after the Civil War. The Klan is mostly after African Americans and resents the fact that the African Americans have finally achieved freedom. The KKK is led by William J. Simmons, a Georgian insurance salesman. It adopts to the hoods and tries intimidating practices and mystical terminology just like the first KKK. The new KKK is getting political powers from places such as Oregon, where a mayor from Portland is a KKK member, and Indiana hold governorships and seats in the legislature. The Ku Klux Klan's goal is described as native white Protestant supremacy. Hiram Wesley Evans has even recently said that the world has been so made that each race must fight for its life. The KKK is now using threatening assemblies, violence, politics, and economic pressure to stop schools from teaching the theory of evolution, to attack people who made and sold alcohol illegally, and much more. They campaign against Catholic and Jewish candidates. Along with this, the KKK are bringing up racial tensions against the Mexicans at the Texas border. Along with the KKK came other issues, but one of the major problems revolved around immigration.
Fear of immigrants radicals began and grew in 1921 when Nicola Sacco and Bartholomew Vanzetti were convicted of killing 2 people. Due to groups like the KKK and just the overall pressure of society, immigration has become a major issue. Labor leaders have now started to warn people that immigrants lead to less wages and less availability of jobs. Business leaders have started placing restrictions, realizing that they can keep wages low by using machines. Some humanitarians are seeing this as a chance of reducing poverty and easing assimilation. Congress therefore recently passed the Emergency Quota Act of 1921, which only allows immigrants from a nationality only consisting of 3% of those living in the country of that nationality in 1910. In 1924, even more recently, the act was replaced with the National Origins Act. This law only allowed 150,000 people to come in the U.S. and had set a quota at 2% of each nationality living in the U.S. in 1890. The act restricted Southern and Eastern Europeans from coming in even more, since there aren't that many of them in the U.S. to begin with. Foreign-born wives and children of the U.S. citizens too could come in the U.S. as non-quota immigrants. People of the Western Hemisphere could now fall in these quotas. The true challenge of our decade in everyday life would be adjusting to the modernization of society while still maintaining old beliefs.
Immigration was not the only thing being changed. Another major reform that occurred during the 1920s was about education.
Educational reform is taking place in the 1920s during what is called the Progressive Era. Schools are now not only for the elites, but for everyone. People like John Dewey have greatly impacted the educational system, where personal development and learning real-life problems are key. The number of children going to school are rising sharply to where 78% of children are going.
One of the most controversial court cases on education reform during the 1920s was the Scope trial.
In 1925, Tennessee had passed the Butler Act, which prohibited public schools from denying the portrayal of human origin as sin in the Bible. When this was signed by Austin Peay, the Tennessee governor, it meant that the notion that men originated from lower life forms was invalid, and the idea that men descended from Adam and Eve should be taught. The law had not been challenged for a few months until a high school teacher by the name of John Scopes had voluntarily been arrested on May 5, 1925, for teaching students evolution in Dayton. During the trial, William Jennings Bryan, former Secretary of State and 3 times presidential candidate, called for the persecution of Scopes. Scopes was backed by the American Civil Liberties Union, and his lawyer was Clarence Durrell. William Jennings Bryan was the state's attorney because he believed that the evolution theory led to many dangerous social movements. Therefore, the Bible needed to be interpreted literally. Despite the fact that the case was about Scopes breaking the law, it became a national debate of the Bible versus Darwin's theories. In the end, in July, Scopes was found guilty and fined for $100. Even though Bryan won, and so did anti-evolutionists, Durrell, Scopes, and the ACLU still feel that they had won the case because they managed to prove fundamentalism to be illogical. In the end, this case is the result of a clash between Christian fundamentalism and modernists.
Now we will look at the 3 presidents of the decade and how each one impacted the nation. Warren G. Harding was the 29th President of the United States and served from 1921 to 1923. A conservative senator from Ohio, he promised a return to normal life after World War I. During his presidency, taxes were reduced for corporations and wealthy people, higher tariffs were put into place, and immigration was reduced. Harding also played a role in everyday life for the average citizens. He signed the Shepherdtown Maternity and Infancy Act, which granted funds to states for maternal and child care. While he helped everyday life by improving the economy and handling social issues such as immigration by passing the Emergency Quota Act, his presidency was plagued by scandals. One example includes the Teapot Dome scandal of 1923, where Secretary of the Interior Albert B. Fall leased oil-rich land in Wyoming to companies in return for loans that were never paid. Harding's main role in everyday life was to return the country to a normal state, and his effects can truly be seen today.
The next president is Calvin Coolidge. Our 30th president, serving from 1923 to 1929, became president after the scandals of the Harding administration. He was less outgoing than Harding, so journalists nicknamed him Silent Cal. He was the governor of Massachusetts, and in the 1919, he used the National Guard to end a strike that the Boston policemen were having. This action of his got him business support and gave him the chance to be vice president on the 1920 ticket. Coolidge's presidency supported business. He reduced federal debt, he lowered income taxes, and started making a national highway system. He refused to use government power to help struggling farmers, though. Congress passed bills to make government-backed price supports for staple crops, and they were called the McNary-Haugen Bills of 1927 and 1928. Coolidge's presidency shaped the economy and financial issues of everyday life due to tax reductions, but he did not want to get too involved into the market economy.
Our 3rd president for the 1920s is Herbert Hoover, our current president. Herbert Hoover is a Republican and is choosing traditional value of individual hard work with less corporate action. Hoover's goal and plans mainly have to do with commerce, and they do not incorporate other parts of running a government as much as they should. Unfortunately, he is taking most of the blame in the people's eye for the Great Depression. Hoover's response to the crisis is constrained by his conservative political philosophy. He believes in a limited role for government and is worried that excessive federal intervention will pose a threat to capitalism and individualism. He feels that assistance should be handled on a local, voluntary basis. Accordingly, Hoover is vetoing several bills that would provide direct relief to struggling Americans. Hoover is affecting everyday life on financial terms due to his policies related to economics. The 1920s, our decade, has been an interesting one, especially labeled by the changes in society and everyday life and the challenge they pose. Everyday life will only continue to change and be altered as new ideas and circumstances are introduced. This is all we have time for today. Watch us next time on The People Today as we get more news from around you.